Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Weatherman podcast. I am again joined by Joshua Fish. Josh, say hi.
Hi, I'm Josh.
All righty. Today we'll be talking about the future of work. Okay. So we've covered so far NFTs, DAOs, play to earn. Those are a lot of the Web3 based sort of opportunities with the future to work, but the future of work rather, sorry. But there's also other things that have exploded in the past 10 years. We've seen YouTube, Spotify, drop shipping, affiliate marketing. There's so many opportunities now on the internet, really, where we can be the master of our own agenda. We don't really have to follow a career path anymore. There's a lot more optionality. And this has sort of coincided with a lot of sort of broad macro trends around the job market and innovation and the automation of our manufacturing industry. So I'm happy that we have Josh today because Josh is a future coding, extraordinaire.
I think I'm changing my career to security engineering right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm loving security engineering.
Okay. Well, now you.
But that's also coding. That's also coding.
But yeah. So Josh has a lot of awareness for. Well, we both sort of picked our sort of university degrees based on where we thought the value was in the future. Josh is more engineering stuff. I'm more investing.
I would like to say that I did pick my uni degree on a whim. Basically, I just got offered to do 2 degrees and I really wanted to do commerce because that's what everyone was doing. And I was like, oh, I do computer science because it just sounds cool. But then
there you go.
But now it's become my favorite degree.
Yeah, good. Good. Yeah, I do economics. It's not necessarily like I guess it's related to investing, but it's not direct, I'd say. So yeah, like not complete career alignment, but we did sort of have that in mind that there would be jobs in that in the future, right? So anyway, I'm happy that we brought Josh back. Going back on topic, I'm happy that he's here because I guess he sort of has an appreciation for how automated the workforce is becoming and how the lines between sort of labor and sort of machinery have sort of blurred and become sort of one category in terms of sort of capital productivity for companies who are manufacturing on a large scale. So let's flesh out future of work first, the broad economic scale, how that's being transferred to sort of the future. Do you have any initial thoughts, Josh, on this that you'd like to be known, or will we just dive in?
I think that with the future of work, a lot of jobs will become automated. And so a lot of new jobs in coding will occur in the future. These could be like robotic architecture, server architecture, also cybersecurity just becomes bigger. As you may know that a website can, like basically everything can be hacked. So
of course.
Everything needs to become more secure, which it has become. But there's been like a couple of big cybersecurity risks in recent times. And one of them being Russia's like massive cyber attack team that they built up. And with this Russia and Ukraine war right now, there's a big threat of a massive cyber attack that could go across the whole world. But yeah, so I would say there's a lot of programming opportunities, but also a lot of engineering opportunities as like new robots get built, etc.
Cool. So, unreal. So I guess that's a good segue into what is called officially the post-scarcity economy. Essentially, this economy is a world where most things that we pay for now, like food, water, other sort of essential commodities, essentially become free or almost free. And that's a consequence of us becoming so efficient at producing, manufacturing, and delivering those products to the consumer. And one of the key expenses to that is that there's going to be a mass shift away from human-driven manufacturing towards automation, which we've fleshed out already. So technical term for that is the post-scarcity economy, where it's in the name. Scarcity isn't really a problem for us anymore. Therefore, the price of goods and services go down, right? This is the function of capitalism, right? It's an inherently deflationary system. It improves the quality of life for everyone by trying to drive down costs in goods and services. And with the profit incentive, it sort of promotes risk-taking in terms of innovation. Now, we can argue the merits and demerits of capitalism, but that's sort of the best version of it if I was to present it to you. And if you look at the trends over the since the Industrial Revolution, you can say that that's a fact. Not a fact, but it's self-evident how the world's trended. 100 years ago, things like hot water, electricity, internet didn't exist. Communication was pretty poor. Choice in terms of products were at a record high for that because of globalization and the internet. Now we're so close to everything now.
And
Netflix,
exploited as well.
Yeah, and we'll get onto that, how this creates a lot of vulnerabilities for us. But the general gist is the poor person today can expect to have a lot more than the poor person did 100 years ago, especially in the Western countries. We can argue about the inequalities and stuff like that. But I'd say on a broad, if I was to make it as broad as possible, this is the way it's trending, right? And some of you will know who Naval Ravikant is. Have you ever heard of Naval Ravikant, Josh?
No, can you explain who that is?
Well, he's like a entrepreneur, investor type, but he basically makes the argument that if we taught everybody to code at school within the next 5 years, we'd be in this post-scarcity economy where no one would have to work hard, laborious jobs. He's a smart guy. You should read more on him. But that he has a pretty good rationalization for it, and he's not the only one who thinks this way. But he's he really fleshes out the fact that this is really an exponential move, and it's going to start happening very, very quickly, and it'll be very sudden, which will be hard for us to handle the change. That's a messy transition because a lot of the political landscape is we got to bring jobs back to manufacturing sector and mining and stuff like that. And these are sort of jobs that in the long run just won't exist. So there's some short-sighted thinking out there. We got to come up with some more creative solutions. Hence why we're talking about the future of work. Okay. Anything you want to bring up at this point, Josh?
Not really, no. I think you've explained it quite well.
Okay, cool. So something I want to talk about first is value, right? So the general my general observation of economics is that money is infinite, but value is finite and it's transferable, okay? So if you think about it, have you heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Josh?
Can you explain the hierarchy, please?
Cool. So I'll get up the actual hierarchy, but the idea is that we worry about certain things and place different values on them, and we the further up we go, the more meaningful these wants and needs are, but the less immediate they are, I'd say. So our first priority is breathing, food, water. It's the physiological stuff. The next step up from that is safety, right? Health, employment, property, family, right? These are all very tangible things at the moment. And then as the more you move up, the more meaningful that stuff becomes. Love and belonging, esteem, self-actualization. So you can see how that shifts from very tangible, like material needs almost. Some of them are wants, and how that sort of, as we progress up the pyramid, the needs of satisfaction become a lot more deeper, maybe harder to achieve, sort of maybe more internally based rather than externally based. So yeah.
So the value becomes more personal as you go up the chain.
Yeah, I'd say more, yeah, maybe more emotionally based, more mentally based, that sort of thing, more intrinsic as well. So if you think about it, in a world where right now we're really geared towards valuing food, water, house, car, comforts, material things, if those become a lot easier to maintain, do you think we'll value them the same? Or do you think we'll be dedicating as much time towards achieving these things in the future in a post-scarcity world?
I think no.
Yeah.
A reason for that is, for example, there's this thing called the Amazon Smart Fridge right now. So you can have like originally you have groceries in your smart fridge. The fridge knows all the groceries in it. You use one of the groceries, and then the fridge knows that you don't have that like food anymore in your fridge.
Yeah.
And then someone from Amazon buys the food, goes to your house, literally physically puts it in your fridge, and then leaves. So now there's no point of wanting to go out and buy food because it can just be all automated. So that's one reason why I don't think water and food will be that much valued anymore, because people just do it for you.
Yeah.
And that's where automation will change the way we value stuff.
Yeah. Like those things are as essential to us as they are today, right? They will be in the future, and that they have always been essential to us. But again, the easier it is for us to obtain these sort of essentials, the less we're putting a mental value on them, I'd say.
Yeah. I think our physical value will still be the same because we need water and food.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Definitely mental value will shift to less and less. Unless there's a massive food or water shortage that happens.
Yeah, like in Africa, we used to read about this stuff all the time at the school, like the women or the children would walk 5 hours a day just to get like water for their family for the day. Whereas we don't really give a second thought to the fact that we have clean water in our taps in Australia, right?
Yeah.
So we're not worried about where our water is going to come from. So we can worry about other things like what work we have to do for uni, what job we want, that sort of. That allows us to think more intentionally about our lives, right?
On that, like geographically, there's definitely inequalities between like first world and third world countries. Do you think all third world countries will eventually like catch up, or will there be like different means or like different ways that a third world country will like value stuff in the future?
Catch up, maybe. Yeah, look, they'll catch up because like the less developed you are, the faster you grow. That's like a pretty solid rule that we've sort of observed throughout history. And there's definitely like evidence of that, like of developing countries catching up. Like I think poverty halved from 1990 to 2015, like absolute poverty, which is like less than $2 a day, US dollars in income. So it's still not great, but that halved that metric. And also in the world, like no one really, like an exceptionally small amount of people starve to death because they have no access to food, unless that the sort of the supply of food is being blocked by like some like government or tyranny, where like in a civil war, it's like a tactic to starve your enemies sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like starvation isn't really as a problem, like natural starvation. I don't know how you'd call it, organic starvation, something like that. I want a better word for it, but that kind of like starving to death doesn't really happen. Whereas like in 1950 happened all the time. So And also things like internet usage, the like payment systems becoming more electronic. Like I heard that like older women in Nepal now only take cryptocurrency. They don't take any like cash because it's harder for them to
Really?
get their cash. Yeah, it's harder for them to put it into the bank and stuff like that in Nepal because like you've never been, I've been. It's like an extremely inefficient country. They're this is a bit of a tangent, but they have like no word for time like in their language, and it definitely shows. Like it's a very like everyone's sort of late, things don't run on time, that sort of thing. So they've sort of moved to crypto to sort of circumvent that sort of challenge with the banking system. And a lot of them live in remote areas where it takes them like forever to get to an actual bank. So
are you trying to say that there's an old Nepalese woman that's a massive whale in one of the cryptocurrencies right now?
yeah, no joke. Like would not accept like actual cash. Yeah, a friend of mine just went recently. So he experienced that. And it wasn't just one, it was pretty substantial pattern. Anyway, so I'd say these countries won't achieve the post-scarcity stuff as soon as we do, maybe, or most likely. But I think like in the long run, the whole world will experience at least different levels of it, if not the same level eventually.
A lot of third world country people though will be like utilizing the job force for first world countries. Like
well, yeah, that's happening now, right? Like
yeah.
I think that's like the progression, right? We went from like domestic manufacturing to outsourcing jobs to China and like other like Asian countries and African countries, like mining, especially in Africa. And it was essentially slave labor, but like no one can really do anything. Yeah, it is. And yeah, no, like local governments, domestic governments can't really do anything except for like tax these companies because technically they're complying with labor standards in a different country. So they're not really breaking any laws, but it's still like a far better alternative to domestic manufacturing. And now we're starting to see more automation, right? Like the Porsche car is like a completely automated process, I'm pretty sure now. Some of their factories, Tesla, Amazon have like entire warehouses that don't have people in them. It's just drones and stuff. Yeah, so we're definitely getting there. Like that's a natural progression. Like we will see more jobs flow to these developing countries, and people will definitely get exploited in sort of the transition towards this world.
With that, would you think that a third world country like people will be more employed than the people in their actual country because of the cost benefit to businesses?
What sort of jobs are we talking?
Like, so if say you have an automated warehouse,
yes,
but you just need someone there just to look over maybe like this one drone, like for the whole day or something.
Oh, okay. I see, like a supervisor.
Yeah.
Like if the property's local, then you're going to want to be as close as possible to it. That way you keep the accountability there. Like if I do start this factory in Africa and I live in Australia, like that person can do whatever they want. But if they're in Sydney, I can sort of visit them unexpectedly, see what's running. So like it doesn't make, I think it's like a negligible amount of jobs as well to sort of discuss that. You know what I mean? It's like if it's one person overseeing a whole factory. I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of manufacturing, to be honest, like that much. But I don't see it being predominantly foreign based. Like I think financially it all makes sense to have it local. Yeah. Especially with tax compliance and stuff like that. Maybe it works tax wise, having it overseas. A company's not going to turn away an advantage, but not all the advantages are quantifiable with that sort of thing. Cool. So we've established that sort of the whole world at some point will probably get to this stage if the current sort of direction of innovation continues, right? And we've established that sort of the importance, the immediate importance we place on things like food and water and other essentials, shelter, that will sort of dissipate. But where do you think that value is going to transfer to? Like, what are we going to worry about in like 20 years when we have the smart fridge and stuff like that?
I'm not completely sure, but
Right.
I think our value will then maybe turn to where we're employed. Like, I think we'll care more about our jobs and like if we have a job, what our job consists of and does it make us happy. Like happiness will also be a big factor to our
Right.
value. Like what makes us happy. Because
Well-
I know a lot of people right now, like they just do a job for it being a job and they
Yeah.
don't like it, but it provides like a salary for them to live off.
Yeah.
But I think in the future, there might be a value to more happiness related compared to maybe monetary.
Well, how many jobs do you think will be going around in the future? Like, do you think there'll be more or less?
That is hard to say.
Yeah.
I reckon there's two arguments. The first argument is there'll be less because everything's automated. There's no reason for a person to physically be there.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I know computers fail, robots will fail. You need someone to maintain your production line or maintain like the robot, see if it's doing what it's supposed to do. This already happens with websites. Every website that's probably on the internet right now is maintained by a group of coders. And that group of coders, all they do is just oversee the website, make some small patches and upgrades to it to make it a bit better, make it a bit more user-friendly. But I think that same concept will also apply to automation in the future.
Okay.
But there could be more jobs because new jobs will be created that aren't actually even a thing right now.
Yeah. This is, the common principle. Peter Thiel or Thiel, however you want to say it, is like one of the first investors in Facebook. He's also done other stuff. He's pretty big. And he talks about this all the time. Like we don't see most of the opportunities that will arise in the future. So there are like multiple schools of thought about what jobs look like when we're in this world. Are there going to be like a none or are there going to be heaps more? I think like the general theme of the jobs that will be created is tech based. You have to be tech savvy. You have to have like literacy in that area. Hard labor is going to be, look, we should like strategically, we should all be like proficient in like actual labor, because like if like we mentioned cyber attacks, like if that happens, then we won't be able to do anything if we don't have those skills. But
what skills are you talking about?
Like non-audit, like all the stuff that's going to get automated in the manufacturing process, right?
So like creativity and like problem solving skills, is that the skills you're thinking of?
No, I mean more like laboring, like bricklaying, farming and stuff like that, right? Strategically, like we will have a huge platform risk if it becomes fully automated, right? Because the way to a country is going to be to just turn their power off, right? So while those skills will be necessary to maintain, they won't be valued as much in the marketplace. So the jobs that will be there, even if we do have more jobs, a net gain in jobs, they'll all be like tech-based, or they'll all be like problem solving and creativity, like you mentioned just then, right?
I reckon there still will be the old jobs for quite a long time though. Like
you reckon?
Farming. Yeah, I reckon.
Army.
No, farming.
Farming.
Yeah, because people like to farm. Like in the holidays last week, and it was just really fun to be a farmer. Like you just wake up, it's super relaxing, and then you just herd cattle the whole time, check up on all of them, and then feed them, and then process them, and just the whole process is just like a really great lifestyle, like a really calm and collective lifestyle that I don't know if farmers would want to leave that lifestyle behind. Well, and also,
sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, and also even if it's not competitive to be a farmer anymore, since let's say you can like only herd like 80 cows like at a time, while like an automated place can do like thousands of cows. I reckon people will still want to just like live on a farm and continue the farming process.
Okay.
Just
Well,
as an example.
my counter to that would be you, right? Even if you enjoy farming, right? Like how efficient can you be compared to a robot? Like, I think you and I would both agree that in like the logical conclusion is eventually a robot's going to be far superior or whatever automated process it is, right?
Oh, I completely agree with that. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that people won't care about the competitive advantage per se,
Okay,
and they'll just try and keep it alive.
This is where I disagree with you, right? It'll be impossible for someone to maintain that passion because in order to make money, they're gonna have to like offer a certain price. And if they're more efficient at farming than the automated system, then it's going to be a higher price than the automated system. So
yeah,
like obviously you can do both. Like no one's telling you not to farm at all. But I think the automation is going to make it necessary for people to adapt. And this is what we're seeing with the manufacturing jobs now. Like people want the manufacturing jobs to come back, right? But the trade-off to that is the product that they're producing instantly becomes less competitive compared to like a Tesla or a Porsche or like a Volkswagen or, you know, lower market cars that also have like complete automation in their factories, right? So like, I'm not telling you to ditch your passion completely, but I think it's going to be necessary for people to adapt. Do you agree, disagree?
I actually agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see your point. I think there's going to be a small amount of like people that still continue the old jobs per se.
Yeah.
But then they'll like over generations, that job will just be eradicated over time. But I think like from the shift between old and new, there'll still be people doing the old jobs and being less productive, but still just making it by.
Yeah.
But eventually they'll be eradicated.
Okay. Now, here's where I wanted to go with this episode, right? So we've got these jobs that we value now that we've been talking about, and these things that we value now, and how they're going to be essentially completely automated processes. We're really going to need, like, if people want, like, they don't really need high level jobs or a high level income to maintain a comfortable life. And like we can talk about like greed and like the ambition and things like that driving sort of highly competitive people to become millionaires and billionaires and stuff like that. But like the demand for a 6-figure income is going to be significantly decreased if prices become significantly decreased, right? Because we're going to have more access to these goods and services. So do you think that this is there's a popular school of thought that in this world, we start placing more value on creativity, like art, storytelling, like blogs. We're going to place more value on communities and stuff like that. And we've sort of explored with the Web3 stuff with NFTs and DAOs and play to earn how that stuff is now monetizable, right? Sort of passions have become monetized. Creativity's become like a lot more monetizable, especially with YouTube and Spotify and some of those other bigger legacy sort of corporations. Do you think that there'll be a big shift towards like everyone having a creative endeavor? Sort of everyone has a side hustle almost. I want a better word for side hustle, but sort of like a larger proportion of your income becomes passion-based, which we talked about, right? Which you brought up.
Or like people creating new income streams as well. Do you think they'll start making a lot more income streams?
Yeah.
I reckon that basically if you're creative and you got like a passion for something, you can definitely make that right now, make that monetizable right now with YouTube, Spotify, and like Twitch as well, and all those different platforms. But I think in the future, more creative endeavors will become able to be monetized. I think recently art has become a bit more accessible to be monetized because of NFTs. So a lot of people are now becoming full NFT artists, building NFTs for a heap of projects and really getting their art out there, but also getting money for it, which is a really good thing to see. But I think in the future, there'll be just more and more platforms for people to be more creative. And then they can just use that passion in that platform and in some way they get monetized.
Yeah.
Maybe that's still by advertisements, or maybe it's through something else that the company has created in their business model.
Yeah. The reason why I bring that up is because like one of the first things we spoke about in this podcast was NFTs. And one of the big ideas from that is 100 true fans, right? You mint 100 NFTs, you sell them for $1,000, right? In exchange, you give like the buyers of the NFTs like higher level services, like maybe one-on-one time in specific if it's investing, or you just give them more content, whatever it is. You give them a community for more dedicated sort of listeners, right? In a post-scarcity world, you know, you're not going to need $100,000 a year. You might only need 1,000. So you might only need, I don't know, 10 true fans, right? Your true fans might just be like the 50 people that are in your like friends and family circle. And that'll be enough to get you 30% of what you need in terms of money. So like, it just seems like a natural conclusion to me, especially because we've seen such an explosion in the last 10 years of YouTubers and sort of artists in general. And you mentioned the NFT thing, like it's just becoming a lot more decentralized. And now you're not going to need a big audience to monetize yourself sufficiently. Do you see that?
I also believe that the side hustle's always been there. But now the side hustle is becoming more and more communicated to more people through different platforms like YouTube and Twitch. Like before YouTube, I know Smosh, that used to be a really big YouTube channel, actually made videos on their own website for people to watch. And they would hire a server for that video to be streamed by anyone in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then YouTube just became a really easy platform to make videos and to make even more people see those videos. So I think like right now with this podcast, for example, people would have been making podcasts years before, but then Spotify and a couple other platforms introduced a way for podcasts to be seen by more people. And now people are seeing that you can just make podcasts. Everyone's going to start making podcasts.
Yeah. All right. Let's use this podcast as an example, right? The starting cost for this podcast was like, I already had a laptop. I had to buy a microphone, set up that audio. So that's like less than $200. And then I pay like minimal subscription fees for like audio editing, and like if I want, I can have captions. That's all. Sorry if I hit my microphone, those sorts of programs. And also what else I pay for? Oh yeah, I have like a software where I sort of like, I have my audio, I send it to that software and it automatically sends it to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, right? So I got a lot of those workflows going. And then I have the website that costs me like $10 a month, but there's a free version of that. So, you know, you're looking at like very low barrier to entry there, right? Like if you have a job, you can start a podcast. Even lower barrier to entry with NFTs, right? You have to pay what do you have to pay? You have to connect your wallet to whatever sort of marketplace you're using, right? So that's like max $150, which is a lot, but that's Ethereum and their gas fees. That's sort of like a short-term thing. We expect those to go down in the future. And then the cost of making art, that's completely up to you, right? Like, you know, some graphic designers pay for their things. Others don't, their software. So like extremely low barrier to entry, and say in a world where my costs of living is like $10,000 a year, right? That's what it is in Nigeria, 10,000 US. I looked it up, right? That's not a long path before I'm making like enough money to live off my passion, right? Which is talking about this stuff with you, Josh. You know, so like the counter to that is just like if everyone's a streamer, then no one's a streamer. Everything just becomes diluted a bit. I don't know how much credence I give to that because I don't know, people value specific communities. We're going to be able to get a lot more granular about what our audiences want if there are more of us, because the competition is going to be so high. But also the road to success is a lot shorter with content making. Like now, if we want to be successful, right, we're probably, you know, say we have a 50-50% share in this podcast, which we don't, but say we do. Like living in Sydney, to be safe, you probably want like, I don't know, how much do you think? 80,000, 70,000? Could be more even.
Yeah, Sydney is a very expensive city.
Yeah. Right. So we both need to be making $80,000, which means that the podcast after tax, maybe, I don't know, needs to be making 210 grand a year. That's a long road, right? We need a lot of listeners to get to that point. But if we only need 10,000, like I said, that's, you know, maybe we only need 1,000 listeners. Maybe we only need 100, right? Especially with the compounding effects of NFTs and DAOs and how we can build communities around that and add a lot of value there. I just think like in a post-scarcity economy, like there's going to be a lot of opportunities to do this stuff, and it's more passion-based.
Yeah. And the other big thing is like you get happiness and like enjoyment from doing it. Like it doesn't feel like a big long day to do the podcast and make up and everything, because you're allowed to like expose your creative side, and it makes it way more enjoyable than just being at a desk the whole day looking at an Excel file.
Yeah, that's the Maslow thing, right? Now that we don't have to worry about, you know, the essentials, right? We can focus on, you know, what's my mission? What do I want to achieve in the world? You know, those sorts of questions. Whereas our parents are probably a lot more pragmatic about, okay, well, you know, I want to marry someone, I want to have kids, I need this job to make that happen, I want to send them to a good school, so I need to get to this level. Yeah, I don't really like being a, you know, accountant. I don't really like, I know, being an investment banker, long hours and stuff, but, you know, you've got to do it for the money, right? So yeah, we don't really have to be as pragmatic about what we want, and that opens up a lot of possibilities, right? And we've gone over those with the Web3 stuff. So if you want to explore those, listeners, click the link below the website. It's got all our episodes on it, or it's on the YouTube channel as well, right? And like that's sort of what I was thinking about when I sort of laid out those episodes, right? The whole time I was thinking future of work. You know, when the jobs go, can we do this? Can we all be artists? Can we all, you know, talk, like, you know, follow our passions and stuff like that?
Also, another question I want to ask is, why do you believe that the value of money will reduce in the future? Like you keep comparing, like instead of saying, oh, I need $80,000 to like live in Sydney, you keep bringing up the Nigerian income of $10,000 a year. Like, why do you believe that money will reduce in value?
Oh, it's the opposite. It'll increase in value, right? Because $1 buys you a lot more. So I would say that over the last 20 years, goods haven't been getting more expensive. Our dollars have just been becoming worth less. Do you get the distinction?
Yeah.
So like we talk about
the inflation mechanism.
Yeah. So all of this boils down to inflation, right? Most people don't really have an awareness of it, but inflation, until they actually need to have an awareness of it, which is now. So people are starting to get worried about it. But, you know, inflation is the cost of good, what is it? Cost of goods sold this year compared to last year, right? So if they increased, the price of good rather, and sort of it tracks how they increase, right? So most people just seem to think that things are getting more expensive, but there's two sides of that, right? The money that we actually have in our pockets is getting less valuable. And that's actually what's happening, especially with the money printing that's going on now, right? We can talk about the economics of it and why central banks are doing this, but I'd say the general theme is that the cost of living has probably actually gone down, especially when you consider that most middle class, even lower middle class people can expect to have a smartphone in their pocket, right? Which is basically like a computer, right? Do you agree?
Yeah. It is it's the smallest computer in the world. It's
yeah, exactly. You know, what 20, 30 years ago, like good luck if you've got a computer, good luck getting one rather. But now that technology has been completely democratized. And now we're essentially cyborgs, right? It's our phones are an extension of who we are now. They're an extension of our brains. We carry them wherever we go. We have pockets for phones now. And like it's just like that sort of thing. Like most people can expect to have hot water now. Most people can expect to have food, access to food now. Most people can expect to have access to maybe air conditioning even, right? Temperature control, electricity, internet is everywhere now, right? Those things went around. So like the cost of things for us and how we perceive them have definitely gone up. But if you look at the barrier to entry of having sort of these advanced computers and sort of comforts that we sort of take for granted today, especially us, like we've had pretty comfy childhoods. But I'd say that like it generally trends that way. Not everyone's had like the easiest life. I accept that, right? I'm not saying everyone's got access to like unlimited air conditioning and stuff like that. But it's definitely trending that way. And so it's just like, how could you not argue that like things are like the barrier to entry to getting that lifestyle is becoming a lot lower? And that's what it is. Like, even if it is denominated in more dollars, what that actually illustrates is that our dollar is becoming less valuable. It's not necessarily that things are getting more expensive because they're easier to attain, right?
Yeah.
Do you get that, or was that too complicated?
I agree with that. It's just more that, do you think that salaries will keep rising in the future as well, as like inflation still is still like a mechanism, or do you think inflation will kind of go away a bit, maybe deflation? Like, what do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think deflation will occur. So what's been happening now for ever since 2008, really, it's when it accelerated a lot, is there's been a lot of monetary sort of stimulus where we're essentially printing money. That's the effect. And what that has done is it has really tightened the margin that sort of government policy can operate in between financial crisis and hyperinflation. So basically, because we've become more addicted to like easy money and stuff like that. So there will probably be some crisis in the future before this stuff happens. And I expect the long run effects to be deflation for sure. A lot of people think deflation is inherently bad. It really matters. Like, what really matters is why it's happening, I'd say. But yeah, a lot of people are scared of that. But if you think about capitalism, like that's the natural function, right? Yeah. Innovation, profit motive. So you want to make things as efficient as possible, right? Which means that you probably want to produce your goods for as cheap as possible. In a competitive marketplace, you're also forced to sell it for as cheap as possible. All right, Amazon's the best example. You know, Jeff Bezos's sort of mantra was your margin is my opportunity, which means whatever you're selling it for, I'm going to sell it for less. So like there's the functionality of capitalism is there. It's just the way we denominate them, that the way we denominate or sort of perceive economic concepts, I think, is flawed. So that's why we're where we are now. This might have already started to happen if money printing wasn't going on. especially when you consider that, like, for the last 10 years, people were worried that inflation was too low and there was huge money printing going on. It was really only when COVID started when it really got ramped up, and now we're where we are. So yeah, I expect us to be in deflation at some point.
Cool.
Sorry, I know that's a long-winded answer, but I wanted to give everyone the full scope. Do you have any other lingering questions?
No, I think we've explained it quite a lot about the future of work today.
Yeah, cool. So if we were to wrap it up, I'd say takeaways are we're getting extremely efficient at producing goods and services that we deem as essential today and that we worry about on a daily basis. The casualty to that is a lot of jobs going away that aren't sort of involved in tech, I'd say. But the upside to that is that things are going to get a lot cheaper. We talked about opportunities in tech in the future and how there might be a net gain or a net loss. We don't really know. We don't really see the future opportunities, but also that a lot of people could pivot towards sort of passion-based income streams. If you want more on that in terms of a Web3 context, check out the first 3 episodes. NFTs, DAOs, Play to Earn. They're on the YouTube channel or the website and link in the description. And we also talked about the explosion of YouTube, Spotify. There's also drop shipping and e-commerce and affiliate marketing. Like it's never been easier to sort of be the master of your own agenda. And so we think that exploring these passions are going to be easier, and people are going to be able to sort of think more intentionally about what they want to get out of their life, and money is not going to be as big of a problem as it once was for generations gone by. What else? And maybe one of the consequences we believe, although it's not definite, is that on an economic level, if you're interested, we'll enter a period of deflation. And there's a lot of support for that idea. Like that's not uniquely our own. Lots of hedge fund managers and macro economists believe that. There are others who disagree. So do your own research with that if you're worried. But apart from that, thank you all for listening. And thanks, Josh, for coming. It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, pleasure, as it is every time. And we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.